This is Part-Timer, back with a different video than what I'm used to doing. Not exactly a quick stir, but more so just my honest thoughts on something. For this case, it's going to be my honest thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi, the new Disney Plus TV series. Before I start the video, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the views I got from the last video for Chicken Little. I didn't expect this 55 views. That's freaking amazing. I didn't expect that big of a turnaround, but I'm really appreciative of it for anyone who's actually tuned in to watch. To take time out of your day to actually sit down and watch it is a blessing to me, and I really appreciate that. And while you're at it, don't be shy to watch any of my other videos. I promise you, they're just as good as the Chicken Little video. I promise. With that being said, let's get back to the video. So here are my honest thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's freaking boring. Why is it boring? Because honestly, there's not really much of a story here, or it's basically running on fumes at this point. It's kind of the similar issue that I have with the newer sequel trilogies that came out from 2015 to 2019. We'll get into that later. Normally I would ask as to why this show even exists in the first place, or who the hell even asked for it. But it turns out a lot of people asked for this show to exist because, well, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi was probably the best part about the prequels, and I kind of do agree with that. And having a show focusing on him isn't entirely a terrible idea, but in the execution as how they did in this show makes it feel like the whole thing was completely pointless. I mean, on the one hand, I'm glad that Ewan McGregor is getting another chance to portray this character. I mean, how can you say no to Disney giving you a job anyways? But at the same time, he's given really nothing to work with in this show. It's pretty much says about pretty much the newer trilogy of Star Wars and how much is running on fumes with the whole Skywalker saga and all those events that happen in between or after the prequels or anywhere within that saga, and how all that is running on fumes. The reason why I say that the Skywalker saga is pretty much dead is because there's not really much to tell anymore. I mean, even the prequels has kind of made it a dying art at this point. Honestly, the original trilogy did it just fine on its own. We don't even need any of this shit. And Obi-Wan Kenobi is more than proof of that. Right, let's talk about the Skywalker family for a bit. Why are the kids involved in this series? Like, they have almost nothing to do with this story. Like, they can literally be taken out of the whole thing and honestly nothing would be taken away. It would just be about Obi-Wan and Darth Vader having a grievance with each other. And Moses Ingram, who also has a grievance with Darth Vader, can kind of play into that too. I feel like that could be more interesting than the story that we have, because the story that we have almost has very little intrigue, is what I should say. It's just, honestly, I think it's boring. It's really boring within that part. But when it gets to those Darth Vader moments and Obi-Wan moments, it actually does have some form of substance. But you have to go through a lot of boring shit just to get to there. And I honestly don't think Star Wars fans really deserve that, especially after waiting this long for it. If there are any good things that I can say about the show, I mean, the acting is pretty good. I mean, Obi-Wan does a fine job. Darth Vader, played by James Earl Jones / Hayden Christensen, they do an okay job for the most part. They're probably the best parts of the whole thing, which again kind of dictates as to how they even made a show out of this completely. But they had to add a couple characters that we're supposed to know, a younger version to sell, specifically Leia, the one who gets kidnapped. That has to, play into Obi-Wan, regaining his powers back or whatever. It's just not the most interesting way of starting it off, but like, I don't think they could have done any much else, because honestly, again, this show didn't need to exist at all. But again, acting wise, even production value wise, is okay. I think the most interesting character is probably Moses Ingram's character, the third sister Inquisitor, who ironically keeps getting hate from Twitter for some reason. This is kind of the similar hate that went to the guy who played as Finn in the new prequels, or the new sequels, I should say, and Rose, who got that same hate. I don't know if it's because of their race or anything like that, but I feel it's a little weird how they seem to get more of that hate than someone who's not black or Asian. So, I feel like that's kind of weird how specifically towards them when it comes to Star Wars. I don't know if it's people that just don't like any form of diversity. I'm not really sure what the hell the deal is, but it needs to stop. It really does, and I'm really sick of seeing it. Her character, Moses Ingram, is probably the most interesting one in this entire series. In fact, if it was only her story, I mean, I'd be all on board on that. She's probably the best character in this whole show. She kind of reminds me of like Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender, who kind of starts off as evil, but has kind of like a redeeming arc throughout the rest of the series. And it could have played into her kind of fighting alongside Obi-Wan Kenobi against Darth Vader, because they both have sort of a grievance towards them. So it would make a lot more sense. And if that were to happen, it actually would make a pretty damn cool fight scene. But instead, she just goes after Luke Skywalker for some reason and tries to kill him. Even though we all know, based on the whole Skywalker saga, we know what's going to happen to him. He's gonna grow up. He's gonna become a Jedi. He's gonna fight Darth Vader at some point and gonna destroy the Emperor or whatever. Like, we know his fate towards that. So that entire arc leading to that finale was completely pointless, and could have just easily led her to fighting alongside Obi-Wan, because that would be a lot more interesting. But they didn't do it, and I don't understand why that wasn't a priority. That would have made things a lot more intriguing. But overall, this show is completely boring, and I hate myself for sitting through it. On its own, like, does it really need to exist? No, not really. I feel like if he didn't even make this show at all, no one would really notice. And again, I know a lot of people did really ask for this, but like, was this what you wanted? Did you like what you saw? I mean, I hope he did, because I don't think they're ever going to make a second season of this. And honestly, I don't think they should. Overall, I think this is the pinnacle of what's wrong with the whole Skywalker saga and why it needs to die down. And they don't need to tell these stories anymore. They just need to tell a separate Star Wars story that has nothing to do with this anymore. Because honestly, there's nothing much else to say about it anymore. There's no other story you can add along with it. It's just nothing now. Obi-Wan? More like Obi-Lost. And those are my real thoughts on the show. So, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video.